Before we dive into the application, it's important to understand the role of Azure Active Directory with Microsoft Graph. Now, earlier in the previous module, we saw this definition, that Microsoft Graph provides a unified API that can be used to access data and intelligence stored in Microsoft 365 and other services. So by using Microsoft Graph, we know we can take advantage of a secured unified API, and we can get access to this data that's throughout our organization, make it accessible to our users, and hopefully that gives our company a competitive advantage. Now, as a developer, you can get started with Microsoft Graph quickly and easily and access data across the organization, and you don't have to learn each individual API. They all work the same in Microsoft Graph, so once you learn one, you'll have a really good idea about how to access others. Now, data stored in these services is secured through the Microsoft Identity Platform, as we saw in the earlier scenario. This platform helps ensure that only authorized users and applications can access the data. So there's a process we're going to be going through to make all of this possible. So to use Microsoft Graph in your application, here's 3 key things you're going to need to do. First off, you're going to need to register your application with Azure Active Directory by using the Azure portal, or you can use the Azure CLI, command line interface. We'll be using the portal in one of the exercises coming up. Number 2, once we've registered our application, we need to add the application registration IDs into our application's MSAL, and that's the Microsoft Authentication Library code, to associate the application with the proper Azure AD directory. And then finally, number 3, we need to provide a way for a user to sign into the application by selecting a button, for example, and then you'll see that they need to then consent to allow us to access whatever data we'd like to get to. So let's review the diagram we saw a little bit earlier with the customer application and Microsoft Identity. After a user signs in, your application's MSAL code can receive what's called an access token. Now, I describe this as kind of a key, but you can almost think of it like a movie ticket. When you go to see a movie, you buy a ticket, that gives you access to a very specific movie in a specific theater, and those permissions give you the rights to walk in and then obviously go into that theater. In our case, we'll do the same thing. Instead of getting a movie ticket, we're actually going to have the application get an access token, and then that access token can make Microsoft Graph calls and retrieve the customer interaction data from Microsoft 365 services. So what type of data can Microsoft Graph access when an application is using an access token? Well, that answer depends on the permissions that have been defined. It also depends on the consent that the user or an administrator has given. So let's take a closer look at the types of permissions that exist and the role that consent plays in this overall process.